Hi everyone, I'd like to share this case study with you that I stumbled upon. And what's really interesting about this case study is that it relates to editorial policy, decision making when it comes to commissioning, what motivated the publication, and it also fuses newspaper publishing with book publishing, which I find very interesting. Alright, so in 2019, November last year, the newspaper, very popular newspaper, the Daily Maverick, published their own book, which is called We Have a Game Changer, A Decade of Daily Maverick. As I said, it was a book published by the newspaper, and it's basically a collection of the journalist stories. So it's basically stories behind the stories. It's not just all the main themes and stories that were included in the newspaper. These are actually stories about the journalists who wrote these important stories and their experiences, and the whole process involved with that. And the Daily Maverick is 10 years old, so this is also the top stories of the last 10 years, a decade. So I'm going to show you a little book trailer of the book as well, and then just explain a few things afterwards.
No. Damiani, that guy.
We were talking about the man who led this country for 2 terms.
It was a crazy time. It was a crazy, crazy time.
One thing about Daily Maverick journalists is that they don't like to be managed.
I was on fellowship in Italy at the time.
For a bunch of people who report on such hectic stuff, everyone is just always so happy.
Wait.
The sexy stories, the big investigations.
There was so much going on every day. And then there was the Gupta list. Something big had happened. I wasn't sure what it was.
Branko is a mysterious fellow. He has that Slavic spy vibe about him at the best of times.
If cell phones had to be put away in this little secret sack of his that blocks all signal.
He sent me a message, we have a game changer. That was Branko's standard line when it came to, I've got something big. I've got something big. Well, what do you have? Oh, I can't talk.
Something huge is coming. Massive story. Is he listening? This is good, eh? Really good imitation.
Can I see?
All right, so what motivated the decision to publish this book? I listened to an audio clip about the publication of the book as well. And first of all, they also said they already had a strong membership of the newspaper. So you become a member of the Daily Maverick, so you get your news in your inbox, or you get alerts when something new has been published. So they already have a captive audience and a strong list. So they didn't have to go and look for any kind of readers outside of their own membership pool. What also motivated the decision is the fact that they already have qualified, verified, and credible content, which is usually hard to find with all the fake news and online news. They already have all the stories that has been fact checked, statistics have been checked, credibility of their sources. So it would just make sense that someone like a newspaper would then obviously publish a collection of stories based on their own news articles. They already have a unique distribution, sales and marketing channel because they already have the platform, they already have the printing skills, although it differs from publishing, but they do already have the experts, the editing, the proofreading, the layout, etc., etc. And then obviously, how do they get this paper out to their readers? How would they get the book out? Marketing, because you already have a captive audience. Right, so what did the process basically entail? So it was published by the Daily Maverick. What happened is in 2018, they published the Daily Maverick yearbook. It's almost like an annual report. And in that, they actually ask for feedback for their members to say, tell us more about what you experienced while you read the annual report. Is there anything that you'd like to know? Interestingly, a lot of the members were actually very interested in the journalists that wrote the stories, and what are their lives like, and what does it entail to be a journalist of a groundbreaking story. So that's actually where this whole idea started, because then they realized that people are actually interested in the people behind the real news breaking stories, and that is where the whole idea for a book came about, and that is where everything started. Right, then they appointed the writers and secured interviews with the journalists. So they got 2 external writers, and then they got the journalists that they wanted to interview, and they also had to identify the main stories, obviously. So number 5 and number 6 basically happened parallel. And then, because they couldn't include everything, and that's also what one of the editors or the originator or generator of this idea or concept, that she said, she's so scared that people are going to say, oh, why didn't you include that story and that story? But you have limited space, so you really had to choose your themes and your stories well. And then they decided on the format, and they took it to their editors, and then they tried to convince them to publish it. All right, so their most important stories, obviously there are more included, but those things, and this will sound very familiar to you guys as well. Marikana, the Gupta leaks, SARS, Mandela's death, the 10 years of Zuma, the rise of the EFF, the business of Daily Maverick. So they also included a section on the actual business. How was the company started? It actually started as a digital little startup way back when, and how it has grown, that now it has something like 2 million unique hits or something on their page. So actually they are, they've grown so much over the years. So it would be interesting to see the business side of this as well. Interestingly, with the stories as well, they weren't sure. Okay, first of all, they had to decide which stories to include, and then they told the writers which parts they would then, handle. And then what's also interesting is they struggled with how would they structure this. And this is something that I mentioned in your comments for your publishing proposal as well. Think about the themes and the structure. Will you structure it, say for example you're doing a book on authors, will you structure it alphabetically, like start from A to F, and is it also alphabetically according to surname or name? And they also thought maybe they should do it according to themes, say for example politics, environment, legal. But then at the end of the day they thought no, they're rather going to do it chronologically, so as these main events and things happen, so that the reader can start from start to finish and read the whole thing. Right, so that's also a consideration I thought you guys might find interesting. The mission and the goal of the publication, obviously they all wanted to be a bestseller, they all wanted to succeed, but basically to them, as they are journalists, they wanted to inspire South African citizens to really seek the truth, and to seek the truth not just by reading whatever is published, but also seek the truth in information that's published and that they themselves can find out. Also, they want people to realize the importance of media and reporting, the very, very important role that journalists, actually fulfill in especially a country like South Africa. And then, although they have their membership, although they have their very loyal readers, they hope that the publishing of this book would open up other avenues, as well as other kind of readers that they will draw in. And then obviously this will start a whole new book publishing division for the newspaper. And on SA Booksellers article, they also said that they've now appointed a specific lady, and I'm just going to look for the name now, and she's going to head this publications section. And let me just see what is her name. Ingeborg Pelser, and she has many years experience in publishing. She worked with David Phillip Publishers, with Jonathan Ball and Quivertree. So they realized that they can produce the stories, but they still need someone like a publisher who can actually run this division, which I find very, very interesting. And it would be cool to see what happens, and it's definitely going to be a non-fiction publishing list, and they will obviously only focus on real life political information. Right, so I just thought this is a really cool case study. What makes it different? This is what one of the interviewers asked them, and what makes it different to the website, if people can just find the news, because those are just the stories and the news reporting, but this is actually about the people who wrote the stories with the added facts. All right, so that's what makes it